I never used to have any problems with allergies whatsoever. I'm allergic to the fact that it's still cold outside, too.
It's 50 degrees, I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of...
Without a sun, 50 degrees,
it can be cold. Yeah, you're right.
Because the sun's strong when it's out at 50 degrees. It is. Are we rolling? Are we rolling? Add in the wind? Yeah.
I'm so glad that we have this beautiful
Isn't that something?
Visual here of water flowing down a mountain, a waterfall. I'm sure it's much warmer there, that wherever that there is.
Oh, that's got to be Hawaii. You don't think so? I think it's Hawaii.
It could be. Hawaii has that reddish kind of earth. Because I remember being in Hawaii and slipping and almost sliding. Actually, not almost. Sliding under my car in the muddy thing. And my wife laughing and thinking that it was very funny. To this day, when we talk about this story, she thinks it's really funny that one moment she saw us running back to the car, and the next moment she was looking for me, and then saw me coming from under the car with red clay on me.
Well, I got to admit that I would probably laugh at that too, Dan.
Well, thank you, Jimmy.
Sure, no problem.
Hopefully you won't be laughing at our stories we'll be covering today.
All right.
Hit it, Steve.
You're tuned in to Behind the Media. Dan Lothian and Jimmy Young bring 70 years of award-winning broadcast experience to the table. From newsrooms across the country, behind anchor desks and in the field, they've seen and covered it all. And now they are here to take you behind the media.
You're going to have to embrace technology. If you're an educator...
I'm embracing it.
I want you to use the phone to help teach these kids.
You don't need to do that. I was covering the president in China, and we did a behind-the-scenes video. This is a gong, or...
No, not a gong. A bong.
A bong.
With a B.
That's right. I said
the
gong.
Gong is a gong show.
I said gong.
Gong
bong.
makes noise.
Bong.
Okay.
Why is it, Jimmy? Why?
Because sex sells, Dan!
True, but it's only part of the answer. It is, you have to be more creative now to be able to tell a story, and sometimes it's just a before and after picture and saying which one do you want to be. The case of Julian Assange and the First Amendment debate. Is hacking okay if you're revealing truths? Or is theft just theft?
It was a fake story spun by a comedian, and the press bought it hook, line, and sinker.
Robots are being used for everything. Now one might help employers remove bias from the interview process.
And bites behind the media, including Up Close with the Black Hole. Jenna joins today, and an actress pleads guilty in a cult sex slave case.
That is a bizarre story if I've ever seen one. It's real. I thought it was fake news when I first read about it.
Nothing is fake, unfortunately. It is too real to be true. It's probably true.
Exactly. Now, exactly. Ding-a-ling. It's not your ordinary First Amendment debate. This is about a fugitive, hacking, and so much more. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We find the interesting in media so you don't have to go searching for it. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter. And listen on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Away. Thoughtful standards for modern travel. Away makes suitcases for the way we all travel, with features like an ejectable TSA-approved battery, or a charger on the suitcase for your phone or other device, a built-in front pocket, and of course they come in a range of colors and materials that suit your travel style. For $20 off your next suitcase, you can enter promo code CLNS. So this Assange story is the big story, and it's going to be the big story for a while because we've been talking about him for years. He's been on the run for years, and now he's behind bars.
And it's because he doesn't clean the bathroom and clean up after his cat.
That's what it is.
That's what finally drove the Ecuadorian embassy to say, see ya.
That's right. And, okay, for those of you who don't know the whole story, I mean, you've probably heard his name. It's come up, WikiLeaks, the founder of WikiLeaks back in 2006. Basically, everybody wanted him for something. And he escaped to London and the Ecuadorian embassy, where he's been hiding out for about 7 years or so. And
by the way, could you live in a house inside, never going out,
right,
for 7 years? How about 7 days?
It's so funny. I've thought about that.
You
that
actually might like it, Dan.
Well,
you don't like people.
No. I don't like people, but I don't like. I don't like being locked. I don't like solitary confinement. I mean, I like the people that I like, and I do like getting out and about. I just don't like being out and about with a lot of people. And so, no, it would be very difficult unless you knew that if you came out, your other option was you'd end up behind bars. Then, yes, it's a pretty good deal if you're under house arrest for 7 years, so to speak. But, yeah, what about you, Jimmy?
I had trouble with 72 hours when I got
oh,
to
that's
custody,
right.
you
That's
know?
right. That was tough.
I really did. I need to be. I need
yeah,
people.
you need people.
I need people.
You can
people who need people.
You can keep food away from
Who
Jimmy,
like
but not
people.
people. That will starve him to death.
Yes.
But so this is really an interesting story because it is usually when someone does something criminal, you will get most respectable people to say you do something that's illegal, then we don't like it. Like you can have you took a survey and you can ask people, hey, if is it okay or isn't it okay to go in and rob candy from the 7-Eleven? I think most people would say, I would hope more than 95% of the people out there would say that's a wrong thing to do.
Right.
But this is about First Amendment. This is about information that was gathered through illegal means.
Stop right there.
Yes.
Illegal is against the law.
Yes.
That's just saying.
Yes.
That's why it's illegal.
But, I mean, some of it, you can argue what the value of it was for. Some of it used for political reasons, yes. But if in fact it was uncovering things such as U.S. soldiers killing
misinformation by the government, propaganda. Exactly.
Soldiers, killing people, including journalists in Iraq, war logs in Iraq and Afghanistan. This is all important information. And I know, I've taught classes on ethics, and we've had this discussion about, here is basically our code of ethics says that we have to, tell the truth. You have to, make sure that you inform the public. There are all these things that you have in there. And then after you teach all that, you say, but wait, there's
U.S. security. There's
stuff that you can get.
Does the public really need to know all the secrets of the government?
No,
Dan?
well, I don't. I know. I don't think that people need to know all the secrets of the government.
There's a reason why there's different types of security clearances in the government.
I completely understand that.
Okay.
But what if in this effort to sweep, some of that stuff gets caught in there? For example, when you go fishing with a net. Not that you go fishing with a net. I'm looking at Jimmy like, what does that mean? Where are you going with it?
Okay.
The old biblical days where they take a big net and you throw it out there.
Right.
And
you see what you catch.
You see what you catch. Now, sometimes when you catch all that stuff, only one or two things are really good things, but a lot of other stuff gets gathered in that net. And typically you throw that shell away or that fish that's too small. And then you keep the grouper or whatever. I don't know.
What about the tire that you pull out?
Or the tire, yeah. And the plastic bottles.
That's right. Oh, man.
So this is kind of like that. So you throw this illegal net over all of this information that's out there. Is most of or some of that stuff necessary for the public to know about? I would argue probably not. Is there that big grouper or whatever that juicy fish is that's in there that the public does need to know about? I would argue yes. And so then it comes down to what is it worth?
Right. At what cost?
Exactly.
Right.
I think that you can't just make a blanket statement that all theft, when it comes to information, now I'm not talking about stealing the candy bars from
personal property or whatever, right?
Exactly.
You're talking about information. And the public's right to know.
Right. Exactly. I mean, but
sometimes I don't think the public's prepared to know some
well,
stuff.
That's another issue. You're right. I mean, they don't necessarily want to know how the government deals in some countries. They don't want to know that some of our troops were involved in things that are not, at the very least embarrassing, if not more than that, way more than that.
You know people that have been in the military. Dan.
Yes, but there are bad people everywhere, right?
And how many haven't they said to you, if I tell you this, I'm going to have to kill you?
Well, yes, they've told me that. I've heard that.
Well, don't tell me.
I always say, go ahead and tell me and kill the guy next to me. So, but I think, look, by and large, I think, our military and I would hope government officials are out to do the right thing. We know that the right thing doesn't happen intentionally sometimes or by mistake.
Well, I think the right thing is also open for definition and how you feel about it.
Yes.
You know, whether it's the left thing or the right
Or the
thing.
right thing.
Oh, I had to do it.
There
I
you
had
go.
to do it. I had to do it.
But I do think, and I pointed this out one time in an ethics class, that I think that sometimes it is okay, and it has to be a case-by-case basis, and you can't make this an ongoing pattern. There are times when it's okay to look at evidence, the evidence in front of you, as a reporter now I'm talking, and say, you know what I think we can uncover by doing something illegal or by lying is more important than the law. I don't think that happens.
Talking about the military in a war zone.
Yeah.
There's certain things that I really don't want to know that happen.
Well, that's fine if you don't want to know, but what but still,
Does
are there people out there who need to know, who want to know or need to know about something, whether it's something that could make our country more secure by cutting back on something or locking up tightening up something, whatever. When information is exposed, we know oftentimes it leads, if it's some bad thing that government officials are doing, usually someone loses their job, usually there's a full sort of investigation to determine how can this not happen again. There are a lot of good things that can come out of leaked information, or in this case, potentially stolen information. So why shouldn't that be okay? It's information.
Somebody's making a decision about what is right or wrong for the country, and it's is a journalist's job to decide what that is, or just to, when they find out about the information, decide if this is a story or not that needs to be told.
Oh, no, I think
some stories don't need to be told.
Some stories, no. And again, I think that goes back to my example of, throwing the big fishing net. Mm-hmm. I don't think that most of the information is out there. I think that's where people have a problem with this. You're stealing a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be stolen, and then using important components of that to argue your point that it's okay to take all of this or to have access to all of this. And I just, it's difficult because you're kind of, as a journalist, you're speaking out of both sides of your mouth when you have this conversation.
Shocked to hear
right. Because you're trying to you want the audience to trust in you, in the information that you're giving them. If I'm saying to my child, I don't want you to lie or steal, trust me, I don't do that, follow my example or whatever. Okay, and that's how you raise your child. And then you say to them, but there are times where you have to lie and cheat and steal. That's a confusing message for a child. Imagine the confusion for the public. Well, if you will lie to get a story, even if it's a good story, what else will you lie about?
Now, there's a pattern of behavior and pattern of misinformation that is out there, and it's still up to a human to decide, once again, what the public has a right to know,
right,
and what they perhaps aren't mature enough to know, because it's a mob mentality when you're talking about the public.
No, I think you're right, but this is one of those stories. And on the drive over here, I was listening to NPR, which I know you're a fan of public radio and television. And
you're saying that facetiously, Dan.
I am. For those of you who are just listening to this podcast for the first time, Jimmy has this thing about public radio and public television.
I don't think tax dollars should be going towards media like that. I just don't. Sorry. It's just my feeling.
He recycles
we
that
all
argument
work so
every
hard
time.
in commercial media. We all work so hard to get the segment of audience that we work so hard to
it's
deliver.
Basically commercial media. They're just saying it's sponsored by rather than an ad.
Exactly right. And that's
just different language to set it all up. But I love public television.
I know,
public
and
radio.
I know a lot of people, very smart people, I might add, that listen to NPR and all that.
Well,
so,
I put myself in that category.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm just
I'm going to throw you right into that.
Joke.
No,
anyway,
it's not actually, especially compared to your co-host.
No. Anyway, I was driving in. We digress. I was driving in listening to NPR, and it was interesting because there are a lot of lawmakers in London, for example. And by the way, again, just to kind of frame this, he was in the Ecuadorian embassy. The Ecuadorian embassy working along with certainly U.S. authorities and officials in the UK they ended up going in and getting him, and now he's being held by them, and there's some effort now to have him extradited to the United States.
He also was accused of sexual assault in Sweden.
Well,
too.
There
is that little item too.
Right? No, though there is. I'm not saying
this is
that
not
Julian
a good person.
is the model for a Boy Scout of the Year award.
No.
I'm not saying that. I'm using this story to have a conversation about is there value to take material illegally or surreptitiously, or use whatever word you want to use. Is there ever any value to doing something like that? And again, as I said, listening to the radio on the way into the studio, there were a lot of lawmakers who were saying, this is just not right. There's information here for the purposes of uncovering truths by reporters to deliver to the public. This should not be happening to him. He has a lot of supporters. Now, you can strip away all the other ugly stuff away from this.
And the person who actually leaked the documents, this woman Chelsea, went to jail.
Manning, right?
Chelsea Manning went to jail. So he's just the founder.
The information flowed through his site, and basically what the site was. And I think between a period of like 2006 and 2009, there were 10 million documents and analysis information that they published on WikiLeaks. What's interesting, and this is an aside, and here I am just putting the bait on the hook, flinging it across the table for you to head into Reverend Young mode.
Preacher.
The
preacher.
So it's when the President Trump was asked about these latest developments, his response, and I'm paraphrasing here, was, "What? I don't know anything about it. WikiLeaks. What's that?
He's good at that.
I don't even care about them. I don't follow them. It's like I think I heard something. It's as if the WikiLeaks word was just introduced into the vocabulary that day." And a lot of the networks have been replaying clips during the campaign where WikiLeaks was his love child. That's the way he spoke of it. It's like, oh, it's my babe, I love this baby. I thought that was interesting how his memory, maybe, or his just what he does.
I know, right.
So again, not my personal view. I serve that up because I know that's kind of red meat for Jimmy.
Oh yeah, because he's delusional and he is out of touch from reality of what's going on, or he's smarter than everybody, right?
Yeah, and
plays this role of being the dumb POTUS.
Well, I found it interesting. I was watching a network yesterday, and here's how they did the segment.
Yeah.
They said they had a guest on, and they said, the president was saying he didn't know anything, but let's play a little tape here, and they ran the tape, and that kind of going over what I just said, except his real quotes as opposed to my paraphrase.
Yeah.
And then they said, but he said something quite different back on the campaign trail, and then they edited together probably 6 clips of him saying how much he loved, WikiLeaks and so forth. So it's interesting how this goes along to how the media has been doing a lot more sort of real-time fact-checking of information that the president puts out there, and the Julian Assange case is no exception.
No, absolutely not. And do you remember a history lesson here? And I'm going to give my friend Evan.
I was
remember
sleeping.
The Pentagon Papers?
Oh, yes. I
Daniel
know that.
Ellsberg and all that.
I remember the Pentagon.
That was pre-internet, by the way.
It was. Actually, that wasn't that a long time ago. That was
the public need to know that information?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Certainly help bring down another whack job in the White House. Sorry.
There are a number.
Why am I apologizing?
Yeah, why
that's
are
exactly
you?
how
That's
I
exactly
feel.
right. Yeah, no. I think that there are cases, and some more notable than others, where information did not come through traditional channels before it got to the public,
right,
through newspapers or television. And I often wonder, some of the stories that we've later found out weren't true. So the way that things were reporting, had there been some other channel to get at the truth, had someone been, removing documents from somewhere, would we have known that there were no weapons of mass destruction, and instead of repeating and reporting some of the things that turned out not to be the case? I mean, we've seen that throughout history where big mistakes have been made on big stories. Could that have been prevented had someone had real information?
Hey, look what we did. We screwed up and we bombed this village.
No, they're not. And,
Oops.
well, then, see,
sorry.
I'm glad you're taking us full circle back to
Yes.
why it is important for us. And again, not every story requires us to, put on the hood, not that. What, you looked at me as if I was going to say something about the KKK when I said the hood.
That's exactly where my brain goes.
No. I was thinking of when like a robber goes into you put
stocking. The cone of silence.
No, maybe I should have said stocking instead of hood.
Stocking.
Apologies for using the wrong
That's
word.
That's all right.
That led you to interpret by that word that I was going down some other road.
Yeah,
right. I wasn't going down that road.
Okay,
I meant, when you think of the robber, there's like a stocking with the little eye holes or whatever.
Except the one who wears the fishnets and you can see through it on that one commercial, right? Is that Geico? Maybe, I don't know. Little Johnny,
right.
What are you doing over there?
That's right. No, that is funny. Now I'm sort of lost.
Does
my
your
train
mother
of
know
thought.
where you are? I love that commercial.
I've lost my train of thought.
Thank you. I'm very good at that. Aren't I?
You threw me off.
That's what I do.
But I think I guess to sum it all up, there are times I think, and not we have to do it sparingly because every story doesn't rise to the level of where we have
national security,
or you'll find out something. Oh, someone lied about something. Should you uncover it? It may not be that big a deal. No, you shouldn't do other illegal activity to uncover something small and insignificant that's also illegal. But there are times where you might be handed information that was obtained illegally, and your only duty. Oh, and this is what I wanted to say that I forgot. Your only duty at that point is to
attribute it.
Well, no, because you may not be able to attribute to anything.
Oh.
Someone hands you something,
Yes.
you know it's stolen. Number one is to verify that the information you got is in fact real. It's not just something made up that someone gave you. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
And then the second thing being, you have to talk to the lawyers who can advise you on the implications of running with that story and where you could end up if you choose not to say where you got it from.
Okay, so this is a little cliche here, but
Yes.
when you're live on the news set, you know that what happens sometimes. Oh, this just in.
You have to use the bathroom? Is that where you're
No,
going?
this
Oh.
just in, this breaking story.
Right.
I haven't had a chance to check it out, but I'm being handed this piece of paper that has words on it from my producer, who I trust.
The producers have, yes, before they give it to you, someone will have made sure, or should,
Right.
that the information, at least at the level that you will be reporting at that moment, this just in, here are 3 things we know, is correct.
Right. And anyway, I think what this guy has done is illegal by the letter of the law.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Espionage Act, I think there's a lot of things that he violated. By the way, when you hack into a government computer and you get around the password, to me, that's a crime.
No, it is.
That's a crime. That's
I'm not saying
cybersecurity.
that it's not a crime.
That's what spawns cybersecurity and everything.
I'm not saying it's not a crime.
So, information obtained illegally and then shared with the public, to me, it goes back to the social media things we've talked about so many times on this podcast. Can't the social media world, they're being held to the fire. Their feet, Facebook and Google, their feet are in the fire now,
right.
And they're trying, at least I'm believing that they're trying
yeah.
to make more money is what they're trying to do. That's what they're really trying to do, and still maintain some sense of credibility as someone who shares public information.
Right, and a lot of stuff ends up on social media that is garbage, and it's always sort of vetting to find out what is real and what isn't. And I think, in the case of something like this, we don't want – I wish we had a more sympathetic character here to talk about. I think if you had someone who – legitimately, there were one set of documents that someone went and got illegally obtained, but reporters ran with it and uncovered something that was blockbuster. I think you'd probably you'd be more sympathetic for someone like that than somebody like this who seemed to have political bents or helping some political establishment get information to bring down someone else or whatever. There were all kinds of, plus there are all these other things that are going on around that person. I think that makes it much more difficult to make the argument around this issue because of who we have here, Julian Assange. And but nonetheless, it's an important conversation to have, and it's one that people have been having now for a number of years and will continue to have, even as the U.S. government tries to get him on our shores in order to, in their words, bring him home for justice.
Or hire him.
to tell them how not to get.
Well, you know,
Right.
I mean, Frank Abagnale, the guy "Catch Me If You Can"
Yeah,
guy. They,
yeah, that's
he
right,
conned
that's
the
right.
government for a long time, and then they say, you know what? Why don't
Yeah.
you work for us? Because, like, obviously you're smarter than some of the people that you've been conning. let's just
most of
say.
them, huh?
Most of them. That's right.
If you like this episode, let us know. Let us know what you think about this. Is it okay to steal when you are uncovering truths, important information for the public? We'd like to hear from you. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter. And drop us a line at info@littlepartmedia.com. That's info@littlepartmedia.com. It was a fake story spun by a comedian, and the press bought it hook, line, and sinker. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We find the interesting in media so you don't have to go searching for it. Like us on Facebook, use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter, and listen on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Away, thoughtful standards for modern travel. Away makes suitcases for Jimmy, Dan, and anybody else who's traveling with features like an ejectable TSA-approved battery, built-in front pockets, a range of colors to match your outfit or any other style you might have. For $20 off a suitcase, visit awaytravel.com and enter promo code CLNS. So this is one of those stories where I've always thought about this. We often will read something in some magazine that's, hey, groundbreaking in the biotech industry, you know, that you can blink your eye like this and it cures cancer. I mean, there's so many stories that come out like that every single day. Or stories that someone just put out there on the internet and eventually it makes its way into the pipeline and we start quoting a legitimate news source that got it from the pipeline.
Right. Well, the pipeline, I think, is called Twitter these days, too, I might add.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's more reports about on Twitter this, that, and the other thing. You know, they said this than I've ever seen before. Although I really do believe we may have actually calmed that down a little bit. Is it because my head's in the sand? I don't watch news?
Yeah, I think it's your head. Your head's in the sand, or for the wintertime, your head was in the snow.
In the snow. Yeah.
But this is, again.
Tell the story.
I want to set it up just a little bit here.
Mekki Leeper?
Mekki Leeper, right. Critics have often looked at reporters or the media and said, oh, yeah, you guys are so gullible. Anyone who puts anything out there, you'll just take it and run with it and give it to us. And
Twitter. I mean, they react to what somebody said on Twitter.
Exactly.
So then they have to take it down. It turns out that
we're much more gullible than you could imagine. And you were talking about this guy's name, Mekki, I think it's pronounced Mekki Leeper, who is a Danish, I believe, comedian.
Yeah, and he's on the Comedy Central TV. Yeah,
and it's called the name of this show that he did, or this company that he created was called Vaev, I believe it is, VAEV. It's the Danish word for tissue.
Right, but the Control Room was the special that he.
Right, he did a special Control Room. It was a social experiment.
This was March
that aired at the end of March.
March 29th.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a couple of family members who have that day as a birthday.
Okay.
And
birthday,
so what he wanted to do was, if I made up a story, could I
get away with
it, and would reporters run with it? So here, and the story, it wasn't as if he did something that was
This harmed no one.
legit. Well, it didn't harm anyone.
Didn't harm anyone.
No, but he didn't even make up something that sort of made sense. Like you could say something like, if you mix radiation with chemotherapy and green tea, it helps, make you beat cancer or something. That's even within the realm of possibility, and maybe it is even the case. And he wasn't just doing. Stephen, why are you counting your fingers there? Are you adding up what I just said with the green tea and radiation and chemotherapy?
Isn't chemotherapy form of radiation?
No, it is. No.
And thankfully, you'll never have to learn the difference.
Yeah,
no.
There
is a difference.
Yeah, radiation is more. Well, we're not. There is a big difference. One is zapping you with something. The other one is going into its chemicals that they give you. Right. And then there's green. And then there's green tea.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that there is such a breakthrough that's taking place.
No, but we're talking. It's interesting. You're going into the CBD world too, Dan, a little bit here.
But there's a lot of quackery out there, and that's the thing. People, whether it's
tell about the product. This is great because he makes up this company.
Right. And again, the VAEV stands for tissue. And why that's important is he says that the theory behind this company is you take used tissue,
of course,
I guess germ-infested tissue paper that costs like $80 a piece, I believe.
Right.
And if you use it, it will
build up your immune system.
Keep you from getting
By the way,
sick.
have you ever had a flu shot?
I have got
So
it.
you understand when you get a flu shot, they're putting the flu inside you.
Yes, but you can't
Okay.
get like this is ridiculous. Though you're taking a
Wait, it's the exact same thing.
oh, so
He's
so
playing.
snot on a tissue is the same thing like putting germs into your system with
Absolutely.
an injection.
His reason, his
germs don't
fake
even
company,
stay.
his bogus company. This made sense to him in some capacity. That okay, it's just like getting the flu shot. They give you,
you put the germs on the
you
thing.
put it inside you. Your antibodies get to work, and now I'm going to give the common cold to myself.
But
because I'm
germs
using-
don't live on a piece of paper for an extended period of time. I don't think. Like you can't.
And
You
by
know,
the
once
way,
it all dry.
how do you preserve
Germ-
the used
well,
tissues? I'm
that-
just saying.
I can't even
Can
use
you
a
even
tissue
imagine
the
if you were
second
report-
time
That's right.
because if you
By the
sneeze
way-
and it blows a hole in the thing. Maybe I'm not buying expensive tissue paper, and that's the problem.
By
here.
the way, it
Yes.
wasn't. It was tissue paper. It
It is.
wasn't a handkerchief.
No.
Which, by the way, is one of the weirdest things in our world. I mean, my dad, God love him, rest in
I
peace,
use
Dad, I
handkerchiefs
love you.
as pocket squares.
Handkerchiefs,
Right.
Right. And pocket square is one thing,
Right.
But blowing your nose in it and then sticking it back in your pocket
Well, you
is
don't.
not something
Well,
that I
you
can never
fold it
wrap
up
my-
and you cover
Oh, I
up the
see.
schnosh. Isn't that a Yiddish word? The schnosh.
Yeah, sure.
I think it is.
I think it is.
I
But
once
isn't
said-
it is now.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it is because there was a Bossamite who used to. It was something like shmish or
Shmush.
something. I
Yeah,
can't shmush.
shmush, yeah.
But anyway, you fold it in such a way that the shmush
Right.
is contained within it, and then
Right.
when you blow your nose again, you pick
Right.
a clean part of it.
Right.
Until you run out of clean parts, then you wash it
Yeah.
in hot water with bleach.
You know what? Yes, it's just I throw away the tissues anyway.
So, yes.
had I known it was going to be an $80, commodity,
Right.
Oh, I
Lord.
would have kept them all.
You would have.
By the way, this is a fake company.
This is
did
a
not
fake
exist.
company, but here's
he made
why-
this up. He got a logo. Did he use Fiverr? You think?
No, I don't. He did brand it.
Yeah.
He used Squarespace for his website.
Squarespace,
He
love
builds
it.
out a website.
Yep.
And spends just under $1,000
and
to
bought followers
and bought-
on Instagram and Twitter,
Yes.
so that when you go, whoa, he's got a lot of followers.
Yeah.
It builds credibility.
It built credibility. I mean, in a very short period of time,
we have
with
no
Short
credibility,
Buddy-
so we have no followers.
with Short Buddy, he went after the established media with this bogus story to see if, in fact,
he shot a commercial.
he did everything that you need to have for a lazy reporter to do a quick Google search and say, oh, yeah, they're there. Or for them to even raise questions. The fact that they were, so he puts it out there, does like a press, puts out the word, and someone from Time Magazine reaches out to him. And
Mandy Oakland.
right, well, yeah, I wasn't going to throw her under the bus, but
I am
why
going to
not?
throw her under the bus here. I'm
actually,
sorry.
she's out there already, so she's already been thrown under the bus.
That's right. And actually,
and I think Mandy's a she, not a he. I don't know.
I think it's a she,
Yeah.
but
there's Mandy Patinkin, who's a man.
right, that's
Right.
true too.
But I'm not saying that's who it is.
Okay, now my head's hurting. Okay, so wait a second. So this woman reaches out
Right.
and wants an interview with them.
Wants an interview.
with the comedian.
With the comedian who is acting as the CEO of this company,
And
which doesn't,
by
there
the
is
way,
no company.
Does this make? And right now, I'm like, wait a minute.
This is real.
Right? But couldn't she find out that this was actually a comedian?
So, well,
Even though
no, he
says
used a
was
different name. He used a
Oliver
different name.
Neeson. I know,
Right.
but it's like,
Yeah, but
all right. He
so,
talked to him phone on several times.
right. So here's the thing about it, and this is why I think this is for all you folks out there listening to this story. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. It isn't so much that we run with a fake story all the time, right? Like without questioning it whatsoever.
Right.
It's the fact that we ran with the story, period, without first vetting it, figuring out that it wasn't anything, and not running with the story. And why is there a distinction there? Because when Time Magazine did something on this, she raises a lot of questions within that story.
Correct.
She
That's
didn't.
what-
She didn't just like take
No,
it
no,
all in and
right.
say.
It was
you know,
very questionable.
Question-
She said,
right.
Wait a second.
There's
This
no
doesn't
record of
sound
it.
right. There's
Right.
no record of this company anywhere.
Exactly.
Right.
But it's that whole thing
So
of
she did some due diligence.
Right, but the thing is, she did the story anyway.
Yep.
So what you did was you took this illegitimate thing and then you asked questions around it. But still, the fact that you printed it gives someone the chance to look at it and say, well, yeah, there are those questions, but I believe it. So you put crap out there without vetting it and it turns out that it's all made up. Now, here's the problem. The problem doesn't lie with her necessarily for not asking the questions. Now the story has gotten into the vein of our system, the flow of social media and how stuff gets the viral
24/7
Yes.
news cycle.
Now people see something like that. oh, look, Time just did a story on this. They don't see that questions were raised around it. They're just seeing a story was done. They just grab that part and say, oh, Time Magazine reports on the fact that snoosh with a tissue can make you ward off your next cold.
Yeah, sure it is.
Isn't that amazing?
And we're just...
And it was all
gullible.
made up.
Yeah.
So all these news organizations were running with made up stuff.
They take it, as you know, you get newsletters. It's not your content all the time.
And you're not putting everything in there.
It's repurposed content.
Yeah, there's no room to put in all the questions that were raised. No, you're just running with it.
Correct.
And that's the making of a fake story, a real fake story. And it's troubling. I think it's troubling because when a story like this gets out, I think the public then says, aha, see, we knew you guys. You don't do your homework. Anybody can make up any garbage and you'll run with it. And that's not true. I think that's unfair. But how do you argue against that when something like this happens?
Well, that's a very good point, Dan, and I'm not going to argue against it. I'm just going to look at it as it was and realize that we are at a time in our world right now where we don't have time to check on things.
We don't. And then, that's sad.
And half, it's not half the stuff, but the media continues to be a target. And, I was actually involved with a media panel a couple of weeks ago at this NECAN convention. And, there was a guy there from California who went after the Globe writer, Dan Adams, because he was a member of the media. And immediately said, you people in the media, and, he throws everybody under the bus.
Right.
And that's not fair, especially for a guy like that who works so hard on this beat that he's on and does a pretty darn good job. Mm-hmm. And, in fact, the Globe Spotlight Group is out there doing interesting things now on this emerging industry and what's going on in the inner city and with big money coming in and all that. And, again, point being, don't always blame the media for everything.
Right.
Okay? They're human trying to do a job to the best of their abilities.
Uh-huh.
And most of them do check it out, Dan. Most of them do work very hard and check on the background checks and then check them again, make sure this is what the person really said and all that. We've all, and the pressure to deliver it first is
that's where it comes
part.
I want to be out there first with this story. Tissue can, used tissue can make you feel better next time around. It's like it's a great clickbait kind of thing. But I think I hope the takeaway from this is that it's not even as much as don't be gullible, which that's important. You can't be gullible. You got to check things out. But pause before you run with the story. Don't just throw it out there and then raise the troubling questions. But don't even run with the story until you have those questions that you're raising. Get the answers to those before you start doing the story, because that way it will keep it out of the public space. If it is just made up, and you don't fall prey to being gullible,
right? And in this,
by a comedian.
And in this article about this story, it's interesting. He says the comedian starts off basically saying that Viacom, the owners of the Comedy Channel, Comedy Central, didn't like the project. But it's something that he said, well, geez, I used to do this all the time when I was doing stand-up in, where is he from?
I think it's from Denmark.
Europe.
I think
he's
it's
from Europe.
I think
Denmark.
I think it's from Denmark.
I think he's from Denmark. So, and
not,
I would
we'll
just
make
make up
him from
stuff.
there.
We'll just make it up.
He's from
Denmark. That's right. Why not?
We'll just make it up.
Yeah, we're in the media.
Yeah.
We'll get blamed for it. He says, I figured it might just be fun to talk about these fake companies, and people are gullible and they want to believe, get in front of a crowd with a microphone sometime and tell them a story.
Yeah, they'll believe it.
They'll believe it.
Yes. Sad. Do you believe us? We hope you did. Like this episode on Facebook. Use the hashtag #BehindTheMedia to engage with us on Twitter. And also drop us a line at info@littleparkmedia.com. That's info@littleparkmedia.com. It's halftime. Halftime. A chance for us to sit back, relax, and watch the waterfall on our monitor here in the studio. Today's episode is powered by Away, thoughtful standards for modern travel. Away makes suitcases for the way we all actually travel if we're headed to a place like the beautiful shot on our monitor in the studio. So these suitcases, they have features like an ejectable TSA-approved battery, a built-in front pocket, come in a range of colors and materials that suit your travel style. Away suitcases are also made from lightweight, durable German polycarbonate or aluminum alloy. And then the interior compression system lets you pack more. They come with 360-degree spinner wheels, guaranteeing a smooth ride through the airport or down the aisle of that plane. And there's also the TSA-approved combination lock and removable washable laundry bag. So, you want to have some savings? $20 off a suitcase. Visit awaytravel.com and enter promo code CLNS. So, Jimmy, the bell has rung. How does that go? The bell has rung.
For whom the bell tolls?
Well, no, that's a sad thing.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sorry.
I won't ring the bell the next time.
Okay. Well, robots are ringing the bell. They're being used for everything. Now, one might help employers remove bias from the interview process. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We find it interesting in media so you don't have to go searching for it. Find us on Facebook, like us on the hashtag, engage with us on Twitter, listen on iTunes, iHeartRadio, the CLNS Media Network. All those places, we're everywhere. Today's episode is powered by Away, thoughtful standards for modern travel. Away makes suitcases for the way we all travel with features like an ejectable TSA-approved battery or a built-in front pocket, and they come in a range of colors and materials that suit your travel style. For $20 off your suitcase, visit awaytravel.com and enter promo code CLNS. So people have been complaining about bias in the interview process. Jimmy, I don't know how much you've been plugged into that. Certainly as an African-American, I have I've paid attention to it. There are always issues about race, gender, your background. You know, do you come from privilege or not? You know, the way you dress, the way you smell. You go into an interview process. There is another
if you
human.
smell in an interview, you are in big trouble.
Well, what if you work in the fish industry and nobody can smell there? Their noses have become trained to not smelling smell.
You have kind of set up this as a robot doing interviews.
Right.
So the robot can't smell you.
Well, no, but therein is the solution to a problem that we have when a human is. So if I'm sitting here across from you and I'm asking you questions, I'm judging everything I'm seeing. So if you're scratching your armpits while you're answering the questions, I'll say he's nervous. If you're picking your nose, if you run your hand through your hair and dandruff goes floating down, whatever it is, or if the person asking the questions is a racist or a sexist or whatever it is, because people are people, and these things that are buried deep inside people work their way out in the choices that they make.
So let's replace the humans with robots.
Right. Exactly.
And ask all those robotic questions that you're told that you'll be asked in any kind of an interview situation. Where will you be in 5 years?
Exactly. It will ask you. The name of this robot, by the way, is called Tengai, I believe, or Tengai, Tengai. And basically, this robot, an artificial intelligence driven robot, will ask a series of questions the same way every single time. No real tone, inflection, nothing at all. There's no chit-chat the way that you'd go, hey, so what about the weather? Those things that you talk about that maybe you could throw someone off and inject your bias, like, hey, did you play golf? Well, no, I don't play golf. You don't play golf? Oh, you're not a golf playing. Well, you got to play golf in order to make, none of that chit-chat stuff that could potentially trip you up in an interview process.
Or relax you.
Well, it could relax you. What about, Stephen, have you ever felt uncomfortable going in for a job interview and worrying what the person is going to think about you?
You could say yes.
Yes. I mean, I think
of all people to ask.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because 2 years ago, I came in for an interview with a certain someone.
Oh.
Was it me or Dan?
It was Dan.
Oh, he was nervous. You intimidating. You're so intimidating.
Jimmy talked you up so much. I was like, oh my God, he's probably used to so much excellence, and I'm just like.
But you're still here 2 years later.
Also, fun fact. I wonder if you noticed this or not.
What?
I wasn't wearing a belt during my interview.
I did not notice that, and I probably should have noticed that because we've never talked about this. Actually,
I don't look at guys.
There is a belt issue
shoes.
because my dad always did the belt check before I went out the door. He was obsessed. You had to be proper when you went out, And it wasn't cool back then to have belts with your Levi's. So I had to wear a belt when I walked out the door, and then I would take the belt off.
I always wore a belt on my Levi's.
Well, I always wear, back then?
Yeah.
Well, you were a geek back then.
No,
you
I
did
was an
not.
athlete, and I was cool.
Oh, but
don't
if
be
you
calling
were
me no geek,
wearing
man.
if you were wearing a
Don't
belt,
be calling me
if
no
you were
geek,
wearing
man.
a belt with Levi's back in our day, you were a geek.
All right, whatever. I
Well-
always wore a belt myself.
Well, maybe there was a up north there. You
either
guys,
that or get the belt.
Well, you guys. Well, I got those too. You were up north. Maybe the trends were different up here.
no, I was 2 miles from where this
I know.
broadcast
This is
going
up
on.
north. I was down in
that's
Florida.
right. And
I
in
was- yeah, I
comparison
met-
to the rest of the world and the country, yes,
Yes.
you're right. We're
Right.
in New England,
Well-
the northeast quadrant.
Well,
yes.
there were no biases when I was interviewing Stephen. I looked at him as an individual who walked in. He had skills, and that's why he's still here 2 years later. So I'm
right.
glad that all worked out. And I wasn't acting as a robot. I'm sure we did some chit chat. I can't remember what we talked about, but there may have been some chit chat.
You know, he picked up a third day at Fox 25.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that. Well, you have to stop picking up days because then it's going to eke
Well, no-
into our days.
And by the way, it was the first thing I said to him. Since I've got good news and bad news,
No,
I go, start with the bad news, please.
No, it's great. I think it's great anytime someone is succeeding, and
Right.
we're just so happy to see how Stephen has been flying in the business, and he's just getting started. So it's going to be exciting to see where he ultimately ends up. But anyway,
Back
there
to the
are,
robot.
right there there are a lot of things that we inject in it, but this robot doesn't do that. It will ask a series of questions the same way every single time, and then the employer will look at the transcript of that and will make a decision based on this with no bias and no preconceived kinds of notions.
So hang on a second. They're only looking at the transcript. They're not recording it on video.
It's my understanding that it's the transcript. I mean, I guess they could watch it on video, but no, it asks the questions, it's recorded, then they look at the No, because that would defeat the purpose.
Well,
if you're looking at the video,
if you're
looking,
recorded,
right? It's what?
Is it?
No, they get the transcript.
So it's audio recorded speech recognition.
No,
text?
yeah.
Is that what it is?
The thing, look, the robot takes the information in. I don't know whether it's it does it and it spits it out.
Right.
It spits out a transcript.
And shares the reaction from the human.
Well, not
that
the
they're
reaction, the answers. That's
Well,
the thing. You don't want
react-
reaction.
But
you want the
react
answer.
to you react to an answer.
Well,
question.
you give the answer to right.
guess
It
that's
is a reaction, but
It's a reaction. An
I'm trying
answer is a reaction.
It is, but
Okay.
what I guess what it's not seeing is the look on your face, the facial reaction, the visual.
There are those in the communication business who
Yes.
believe that 93% of all communication is nonverbal.
No, I think you're right. No, definitely. I know you're right.
Actually, as a
But
broadcaster, I always refuted that.
No, I
believe it's how you say certain things.
something like I'm like, what's Dan up to, right? As opposed to, hey, how are you today, Jimmy? Like your facial expression tells you exactly where you're going with something.
Correct.
But
the robot has no facial expression.
It has no. So you don't know why it's not accusatory in asking the question.
Call me crazy. You can call me crazy.
Call me baby. What was that song?
Maybe.
Do you know that song?
Yes, I do. But that has nothing. Now you're going to get me off my thing.
Okay, sorry.
If the robot is asking the same question over and over and over and over to candidates,
right?
Why wouldn't they send it to the candidate in advance and say, answer these questions, record it on your computer or your phone, and send it to us?
Because then you can fake your answers. If you get to practice them, then you go, hey, how should I answer this? You want to get them in as real a situation with questions they don't know are coming and find out how they answer them. You don't want them to prepare. That's like saying, well, the inspectors are coming, so here's a list of all the things that you need to prepare for, and we are coming at 8 a.m.
Didn't we just, it's like a drug test for the NFL. Didn't we just
I'll just use apple juice.
I know, but didn't we just talk about how in interviews there are some canned questions? I use the example, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Of course, they're canned questions told by someone with a bias.
Right.
Like I'm gonna say, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? Would you
alive? Hopefully.
Well, yeah, that's one good answer.
Every day I look forward to that. Actually,
I do look forward to that. If you don't, then
that's right.
You're not alive.
That's right. Then you've got nothing to worry about anymore.
Yeah, I think, is this a perfect solution? No. I do think we've had a lot of discussions around technology, artificial intelligence specifically, and how it could potentially impact jobs, how it may be running away with our society and we won't be able to contain it. But I do think in a smart way there are elements where AI can play a huge difference, and maybe this is one of them.
But
where,
if the robot, you keep bringing up AI, but if the robot is using the same questions to different candidates, where's the intelligence in that? I mean, the robot's not learning from the answer.
No, I think it was AI probably that it allows this thing to have the interaction, to ask the questions. It's not just a tape recorder. It's probably responding to what you're saying. And probably has a series, and it probably has a series, and I don't know this for a fact, it has a series of follow-up questions that it can ask based on whatever you say, too. That would be AI.
Now, that would be AI.
Will it ask follow-up
right. I don't know that for a fact, but I think therein would be, as opposed to just be, because in theory, you could just have a tape recorder ask questions and they would answer. But I think this thing is, it will interact with you only the same way it interacts with you. It will interact with everyone equally. It will not inject any bias, although there are those out there who often will say, ain't no AI without bias, because somebody had to program said AI. And so whoever programmed it has it thinking kind of the way they would think. So that's for another day. But I think in terms of asking a series of questions, they're trying to remove the personal hurdles that could prevent some well-qualified people from getting a job because someone doesn't like something about them. Now, the question is, once people get hired, will they fire them because they don't like something about them that AI wasn't able to tell them?
It's another story, but I don't know. I think the recruitment industry and the talent management group that's out there looking for talent to be hired would reaction from that she's in this business, and I'd love to find out. Do you think a robot would do a job as well as a human on intake?
I'd say
no. No. It's too.
Okay. Here's where I would come down on it.
Okay.
I would like AI to do the first draft, if you will.
So the screening process. The intake.
But that's not, you're not going to make your decision just on that.
Right.
Then a human being comes into the process. That's, I think, where I come down on this. I don't
just
want a robot.
Some of these companies have hundreds of thousands of employees. Right. Walmart, UPS.
So you need a robot to weed out some.
Right.
And then you bring the humans along.
Okay.
If you agree with us, don't respond like a robot. Respond like a human. Like this episode. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag #BehindTheMedia to engage with us on Twitter. And send us your questions or comments at info@littlepartmedia.com. That's info@littlepartmedia.com. Up close with the black hole. Jenna joins today, and an actress pleads guilty in a cult sex slave case.
And a challenge to Facebook and YouTube.
Oh, lots of challenges. Lots of bites. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Bites Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We find the interesting in media so you don't have to go searching for it. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter. And listen on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Away. Thoughtful standards for modern travel. Away makes suitcases for the way we all travel with features like an ejectable TSA-approved battery or built-in front pocket, and they come in a range of colors and materials that suit your travel style. For $20 off a suitcase, visit awaytravel.com and enter promo code CLNS. So the black hole, have you seen the black hole yet?
It was very black.
Actually, it wasn't.
No, actually, it was really cool.
It was cool. Did you see it, Stephen?
I love science fiction.
You did. I love science fiction.
And I got to say this. First of all, this is awesome. Doing my research that you send me every night.
Yeah.
The night
I'm
before.
glad you paid attention.
I do pay attention.
Yes. Okay.
I love this definition.
Yes.
An Earth, a region in space where the gravity and light can escape it. This is a black hole.
We needed music with that segment.
You did great. You were actually a great soundtrack. I really liked that.
We should have had some real good Star Trek kind of music. But yeah, this is. I thought it was pretty cool.
You know what the coolest part of this story?
It was found by a. Do you know who it was?
A female from MIT, I think.
MIT, that's right. She was, I think, only 29 years old.
Correct.
But it was a whole team of 200 or so researchers. And it was quite by accident. They had some algorithm. And she's a PhD student candidate, by the way.
Very, very smart female. And more importantly, I love the fact that all 200 of these people, these scientists, kept it under wraps.
They did.
No one knew
No.
that it was out there until they felt like, you know what, this is what we got here, guys.
Right.
Because it came from different locations,
And
different outposts all over the world. And, they kept coming up with the same data and algorithms and all the neat stuff that I have like no clue about.
Well, I don't even understand the black hole. Do you understand what that all means?
It's a place of no return.
Right.
It's a big black hole in space. It's like a garbage disposal.
Yeah,
that's what it is. And with a whole bunch of gravity. Think about it.
But it's not like it's just. But it's
you don't want to fall in the black hole.
You don't.
Man.
Is it like the Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Steven,
it's
tell
round.
us, Steven. Steven, he's warming up for this one. I think he knows.
Yeah, black holes are basically gravitational masses that literally absorb
everything.
The light.
It's like a whirlpool.
So it's like that place that has
like
the floating island of bottles.
It's like when you flush the toilet, Dan. Come on. It's the same thing. The water goes around and then it just disappears.
Well, if you're at the bottom of the earth, it goes the other direction. It does. It does. It doesn't swirl to the right.
It doesn't go
It swirls to the left. I don't know. We get into toilet talk with the black hole.
Well, no,
okay.
But it's
that was a fun one. Take a look at it.
I love
if you haven't seen it, there's now a photo of the black hole. First time that's ever been seen.
And by the way, it was on the front page of the New York Times. I thought that was. I just thought it was. I love that kind of stuff.
Science.
I want to see
these little science.
I want the aliens to come in and hang out with us.
Well, they are already
in my lifetime.
Yes. By the way, I was blinded by science. Remember that?
No.
Oh, come on.
Nope. No idea.
Okay, we'll move on.
Right over my head.
Is
that like R. Kelly again?
No, it's not R. Kelly. It was Weird Al Yankovic. You blinded me with science.
Oh, well, I know who that is.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
You got to check it out. Steven, maybe you can pull it up there. And
you know how unhip I am. I know. Yeah. I'm unhip. I get it. Okay.
Yes.
I get it.
Jenna Bush Hager. She is now the fourth hour of today.
And
Kathy Lee.
I like her.
You do?
I do like her.
I still sort of, I like her, but sometimes so someone who just came in with no experience, she's a talking head. Next thing you know, she's the anchor of the fourth hour of the Today.
And you know what? Why?
Now, I'm not hating on her. I'm not hating. I'm just raising it, just throwing it out there.
I think she has a very pleasant appearance.
She's
I think she's
and
got
I guess
a
it's
brain.
not like journalism.
Right.
It's
that's
Kathy Lee's slot.
Exactly right. By the way, a personality.
She is a personality.
Is the driving force in a lot of content.
Yeah, she probably has a high Q rating, so that's probably not
key.
IQ, but she might have a high IQ.
Q is explain what Q factor is. A Q rating is because
it's basically a
recognizability.
Yeah, there's something else I wanted to say. It's like there's another word I'm looking for, but
recognition.
It's basically how popular you are. It's a popularity contest, and they can gauge, networks can gauge who's more likable by the audience. And so the higher your Q rating, the more likely you are to get your own show.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. And so if it's low, you can be really good. But
Dan has a very high Q rating because every time I mention your name, people know who you are.
I think I have a high Chew rating. So, okay. So here's another one that was kind of interesting. This is the one we said that was a fake. I thought it was fake. But there's this actress. She was in the show.
I could not find anything about this other than the headline, but go ahead. Tell the story.
So, there's lots of this is a huge story. It's everywhere.
I couldn't find it.
Oh, you were mistyping the name or something. It's everywhere.
I clicked on the link you sent me, and I went to a headline and a video that had nothing to do. Had her walking by the camera people.
Oh, it was in that sound thing. It was like just.
Yeah, but it didn't tell me anything.
Well, then you could have just Googled it.
Oh, you mean I have to go beyond what you send me?
Sometimes,
is that what you're saying?
Yes. Sometimes you have to go and do a little more homework than just clicking on the link.
I was lazy.
Okay,
I'll admit it.
There you go. So her name is Allison Mack. And she was in the show Smallville, which isn't it like a Superman related kind of show?
Smallville is the town that Superman grew up in.
Oh, okay.
Come on,
right.
man.
And yes, it wasn't who else was in that show? Wasn't the guy from Dukes of Hazzard?
John Schneider?
Was John Schneider in Smallville or not?
I don't think.
Yeah, I think he was the dad. Yeah. I think.
I don't know.
I might be wrong.
Was he Bo Duke? John Schneider? I think it was because
I know him, right?
Well,
I used to hang out with him in
L.A.
L.A.
The funny thing is, my pal Liz in New Orleans met him and was at a party with him and hung out with General Lee the car.
I
if
knew
you
him
watch
quite well.
News Dabs every week, which I know you do.
I do. I watch it every week.
There
yes.
you go. You would have seen Liz hanging out in that group.
I knew him after, but he was close friends with a group of people we used to hang out with. I used to hang out with him at least. We weren't like best buddies or whatever. He's a little, anyway, we digress. This lady,
we're
this
good at
actress,
that, by the way.
yes, we do. This woman, this actress, she
By the way, bad time to be an actress. I just want to say
Yes.
everybody's getting indicted and
Well, for
arrested.
you know what though? Give me the college scams over this one.
That's right.
She pleads guilty
Yes.
to helping to recruit women for this what seemingly is like a alleged cultish kind of thing called Nexvim, or it's NXIVM. I'm doing a lot of spelling today with these weird, odd names, but it's some sort of a group.
Sex slave.
Well, yeah, she was recruited. They were. The allegations are that these people would come and offer themselves up to be not only branded, but also, have relations with the guy who ran this thing.
Oof.
Yeah. So, and she's an actress who
Sounds
somehow
like a
got
Criminal
caught up
Minds
in this
show.
Yeah. So she pleaded guilty, and just a sad case, because you see, look, we look at people on television or in movies, and you go, oh wow, that's so cool. That's right. You don't. They're just like everybody else.
One
or
leg
worse,
at a time.
or more disturbing. They're able to, because of their power and wealth and so forth, they can get into some things that are pretty
weird.
There. Right. One quick thing before you jump on yours there, Jimmy. The one about, I thought this was kind of interesting. You're always talking about girl power. Here's, at the morning shows, all of the broadcast TV morning shows now being led by women. Now, this is where, if you know anything about TV history, Jeff Zucker, who's now the head of CNN, when he was in his 20s, was ruling at the Today Show for the longest time. And then after he left, a friend of mine, Don Nash, ended up running the Today Show. Yeah. And now it's all women. At CBS, it's a woman named Diane Miller. At ABC, it's another woman by the name of Roseanne Sherwood. At NBC, it's a woman by the name of Libby Leist. So I think it's interesting that, not that it says anything about anything other than the fact that it's great to see women in positions of power, in positions that over history, since the beginning of these shows, have been led by men.
And I loved your headline. Women do rule the world.
Women rule the world.
I'm just saying.
They rule the home. They rule
pretty much.
The school.
I do what I
rule
was told.
the world. We say yes, ma'am.
Yes,
ma'am.
She who
no,
must
ma'am.
be obeyed. That's what David Faraday calls his wife.
Yes,
I love that.
If you say
she
yes,
who must be obeyed.
The happiest home is a yes home.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Whatever you say, dear.
Or when you're down south, it's yes, ma'am.
That's right. All right, I got something. You ready?
Yep. Go ahead.
Procter & Gamble is going to be challenging Facebook and YouTube. It seems that by the way, they're one of the biggest global ad spends, Procter & Gamble, all those products and all that neat stuff. But he doesn't like social media platforms, and he really thinks that digital media has made it far too easy to hijack conversations and amplify negativity, divisiveness, and even hate. So P&G and other companies want to direct dollars towards platforms that act more like publishers and broadcasters.
So what platforms would that be?
They're going to have their own. They're
creating their own platform.
Yeah, I think they're having their own little social platform that they're going to control. That's what I think is going to happen.
They could have come to me, and I could have revived Heart Beings, which was a positive news platform, and they could have just given us the eyeballs and the money, and we would have taken care of that.
I think you got to get Mark Pritchard on the line, and he's Mark with a C.
Oh,
because he's Procter & Gamble's chief brand officer.
See, Mark's with C's though. I don't like that. It's like, why does Mark have to be with a C? That throws me off.
I know.
Anytime there's a Mark,
and I have a brother Mark who is
with a K. That's the only way to do it. What if my name was Dan with an E?
What? Dane. That would make it Dane.
No, but I would pronounce it Dan. And
so the E would be silent.
Yes, exactly. So,
or it wouldn't have anything to do with the A. It wouldn't have anything to do with the A.
But it would be called Dan,
you don't like
pronounced
people.
with an E. Right, exactly. But I could just make that up, right? Why do they have to go out there and change the way Mark is?
I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I'm going to move on to my next bite.
Okay.
It's a real simple
and
one.
And by the way, it's not B-I-T-E, ladies and gentlemen. It's B-Y-T-E.
That's correct.
Yes, which we used to say all the time, but I just thought,
Walt Disney has a new streaming service.
Yeah, called?
For only Disney Plus.
Oh.
And the price is right. $6.99 a month.
And what do you get?
Stuff. You get let's see, it's cheaper than Netflix and Amazon Prime. You get animated films. You get the Marvel Fair. You get all the Star Wars movies.
Nah, sounds boring.
Okay.
But
it's hard to say no to $6.99. I like the fact.
It's hard to say. Wait. Let me.
That's what it said. It's hard to say no to $6.99.
Well, yeah, if it's not something you need, why would you? I'd say no to $6.99 if you don't need it. It's not hard to say no to $6.99. I don't like their logo. $6.99.
Okay.
And if you have little kids, maybe.
Don't shoot the reporter. I'm just reporting what I'm reading here. I work off a script.
It's
okay?
hard to say no
I'm working
to
off a script
$6.99.
here. And,
Could be a good rap
and
song.
Walmart's starting a advertising business. I don't know what's going on.
Everybody, you know what's going on? That's interesting.
That's right.
Everybody's doing it.
They don't want to advertise on social media.
We're going to do it ourselves.
They want to control it.
You
right.
know why? Because they have the masses. They've created their own social media platform.
Database.
They have the people. And it's like, why are we paying to get on somebody else's? Where we're a big company. We can get the millions of eyeballs and do it on our own.
When I saw McDonald's TV probably 20 years ago, I looked at that and I went, yeah, that's the future. Everybody's going to have their own little channel.
Do you think Burger King would advertise on McDonald's TV?
No.
Oh, just wondering.
Oh, they could advertise and say,
on Coke
hey,
TV?
Don't eat Max. Come visit us.
Well, what a good way to end as we head out to McDonald's for lunch. Thanks for listening and enjoying this podcast. You know, we laugh all the time. We have a good time. We enjoy it. We know you did because we did. Like it, share it, keep listening on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Yes Ma'am, and the CLNS Media Network. For our director, Steve Helmuth, I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
And now you know what's behind the media.